CS has been going on for about 10 years now, and if you're wanting a recap to this marvellous declining esport, then let me explain it for you. Before this video gets started, let's pretend this isn't a rip-off of Sunless Khan's video from like 7 years ago, and please don't forget to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 500 subs by the end of the month, so please help me out. Alright, let's get started, and don't worry, it's really easy. So there's these 7 regions: OCE, SSA, MENA, EU, NA, SAM, and APAC. Each of these regions have qualifiers, which qualify 16 teams out of hundreds to the regional. Of these 16 teams, the top 4 over 3 regionals qualify for the international majors, which all regions attend. But that's only for NA and EU. OCE, SSA, and APAC get 1 team to send to the major, and SAM and MENA get 2 spots for the major. Wait, actually there was another LAN which took place in Copenhagen, but it's fine because that's only the top 4 EU and top 4 NA teams they attended, and they fought for their region to get an extra spot. KC won this spot, which is Karmine Corp, for their region, which means 5 teams get a spot at the major for EU, and well, OCE gets 1 spot instead of 2, which is so deserved. For each of these regions you have different top teams to keep your eye on. If you're wondering who these players are for NA and EU, then remember a couple years ago when we had teams like Optic, NRG, Vitality, BDS, all those fan favourite players such as Squishy Muffins, AJ, Rettles, Garrett, Mark Baye, Extra. So all those players are now gone. Yep, all of them. They're all gone. Well, Justin is still around, my frickin' goat, and a couple EU players have stuck it through. However, most old players are now retired. If you're wondering what the equivalent for old is in Rocket League, well, it's 23. Oh yeah, the minimum age requirement for pros is now 13. Anyway, the top teams now are teams like NRG. But no, not that NRG, this NRG, with Beast Mode, Dan, and Atomic. Wait, how old is Atomic? Ah, no. Anyway, then you have teams such as Shopify with First Killer, LJ, and Kova, Space Station with Chronic, Reveal, and Diaz. Oh wait, no, Chronic has been kicked. Wait, what? Basically, all regions have completed their regionals, and the top 16 teams have qualified for the major. These teams on the screen are those who qualified, and Group C, well, I had the group of death. Oh, you may be confused? The format for the qualifiers, regionals, and majors are all different. You may be wondering why Group D has probably 4 of the top 8 teams in the world. Well, the groups are decided by seeding, which is decided by last year's event. Stay with me now. So you have these 4 groups which all play each other to decide the top 2. Space Station came last in their group, and their arguably second best player, Chronic, got kicked because of it. However, 2 of the NA teams, Shopify and NRG, got through, and all 5 of EU teams got through to the next stage. MENA had 1 team, and OCE, SAM, and SSA had, well, none. Well, anyway, EU smoked everyone, except Karmine Corp, who lost to NRG, so there was 4 teams in the top 4. NRG, Falcons, Gentlemates, and Vitality. Out of these teams, who do you think got to the finals? Yep, it was EU. If you haven't realised by now, EU is the best region in the game. Anyway, Gentlemates won the major and was carried by Nas. So the winners of the major is Archie, Oski, and Nas. You may be wondering, how many LANs have any of these players won before? Well, the answer is none, and that makes for a great story. Now, between this split and the next one, you have roster changes. This means any teams that you want to change their roster can. So basically, there was a crap ton of roster changes, such as Justin, Cheese, and Chronic teaming up. Zach unretired and returned to Space Station, and Geekay and Manchester City swapped Seiko and Tempo because Geekay kicked Seiko. Well, anyway, we had the same process of all the regionals, where in NA you had the clear 4 best teams, which are NRG, Shopify, Space Station, and Foot, and then in EU you had 5 teams to qualify, which were KC, Vitality, Gentlemates, NIP, and Manchester City. Wait, what? Yeah, so remember how GK kicked Seiko? Turns out he wasn't the problem, and Manchester City qualified for the major anyway. For MENA, Falcons decided to collapse and apparently play with no eyes open. They didn't even qualify for the major, however R8 and Twisted did. And then for the other regionals, it was just the same who qualified as normal. Alright, now we get to the Paris major. Basically, there's a different bracket for the first major now. It's groups again, and 3 teams instead of 4 make it out of their group, and then everyone plays in this format. However, as we can see, some crazy things just happened. Yeah, basically NRG just stopped playing the game. They came 9th to 12th when they were expected to get top 6 and above. But anyway, KC won the tournament after having a, well, terrible online split for their standards. Now we get to the World Championship, where all these best teams fight for this prize. And to be honest, I have no idea who's going to win. It literally could be anyone at this point, and I can't be bothered. Anyway, we have LCQs, where 1 extra team from MENA, SAM, and EU. I think that's right. Get an extra spot. So, yeah, that's it. I can't be bothered to go through the 2v2 and 1v1 RSS, but, yeah, bye!